Hey guys, welcome back to the Hands-On channel. I wanted to kind of give you an update on what I found here. I got the thing to run. I pulled the carburetor off, and I'll insert a couple of video clips here in a few minutes of what's going on there. But basically I pulled the carburetors off, or the carburetor off of there, and put it on the bench. Cleaned it up real well with the Berryman's B12, cleaned everything out with a wire brush. There was a lot of tarnish down in the bottom of the bowl and in the bowl itself. The float was stuck, so I worked on that a little bit, but I didn't have a rebuild kit for it, so I just cleaned everything up the best I could. I'm probably going to have to end up buying a rebuild kit for it, but I want to show you guys what I got going on here. We'll just give it a pull here, fully choked. Try not to get tangled in my cord. Okay, the choke's on. Give it a little gas. Okay, you can see it's running on its own now. And I actually even rode it around a little bit. But the deal is that it seemed like as soon as I started gassing it, it would bog down and cut out and backfire. So what I think I've got going on is I think one of the main jets, or maybe the idle jet, is still clogged up, because every time I try to take the choke off and open the choke up, the thing will rev up like it wants to run, and then all of a sudden it dies. So I think it's still starving for fuel. Although with choke on, it's actually rideable. I rode it around the yard a little bit, shifted it through all the gears and everything, so it seems to work okay. And the engines, you can hear it's running okay, no noises or anything like that, no smoke. So we're doing good, we're making progress here, but I'm gonna have to take that carburetor back off again and run some wires through those little tiny openings, clean those out a little better. And I'm actually gonna, the first time I took the carburetor apart, I didn't pull any of the jets out or anything. This time I'm gonna pull the jets out and actually look through them and run some guitar string. Actually makes a really good cleaner. So I'm gonna use those guitar strings to, or some wire, to open up those holes and make sure they're flowing, blow them out real well with air, and put it all back together. And hopefully it'll start to run with the choke off, because let me show you here in a second. I'm going to rev it up a few times just to show you that it'll run right, but then I'm going to go ahead and flip the choke off, and you'll see it dies almost instantly. There's a little hesitation there, but it's working, and then it'll idle high sometimes like that. I'm going to just slowly open the choke up. And I just cracked the choke. I didn't even open it all the way. That's all the way open. I just cracked it open a little bit, and it'll rev up, and it's just like it's acting like it's still starving for fuel. So, but it's starting right up as long as you've got the choke on. One pull. I mean, so this thing, it's going to be a runner, no doubt about it. Okay, we're fixing to rip this carburetor back off of here, and just first off, I didn't really go over it very clearly in the first video, but if you've never worked on one of these little three-wheelers before like this, and I have had other three-wheelers in the past, but never a Honda, and I didn't know how to get the back fender off of there. Well, it took me a little while, and I figured out there's a latch on the opposite side. I believe it's on the right-hand side as you're sitting on the machine. Underneath the plastic fender, underneath the seat, on the actual frame itself, there's a little latch you flip, and that frees up the front of it. And then there's some little U-shape thing that goes in the back there that you can kind of, once you pop that latch off, it kind of pivots up a little bit, and then you'll feel that it just pulls forward and comes off of those little rubber things. So I'm going to take that off, then I'm going to remove the gas tank. This gas tank is a plastic one. I'm not sure if it's a factory original or what. I thought they had steel ones on there, so I think somebody put this plastic tank on there, which is great because that means no rust in the tank for me. But the way it goes on there, there's this little rubber strap on the back, and yesterday when I was working on this thing, I pulled the rubber hoses off the petcock, and later I found out you don't actually have to do that. You can, of course I kind of needed to see what was in there at that point, but you don't actually have to do that. You can just turn the thing off and take the two little screws out on the petcock, and that will keep the fuel from flowing out of your tank. So I'm getting ready to do that. I'm going to pull all this apart, and the last thing I want to tell you is that whenever you go to pull the carburetor off of this thing, you want to, at first I didn't know, and I was trying to take the bolts loose on the intake manifold to the carburetor, you know, that connection there. Well, you can't get to that inside bolt. So what I ended up doing was just taking the manifold off of the head. That's the easier way to do it, and that's what I'm going to do again. So I'm getting ready to do this. Hopefully, now that this is my second time, I think I can go through it pretty quick. So we're going to get this thing off of here right quick and get it on the bench. Here we go. Have it. Next up, I'm going to get this in there on the bench, take it back apart, and we'll see if we can find a blockage in one of these. That's what I'd like to see. If I open this thing up and find one of the ports is blocked, that'll make me happy because I'll know that's my problem. All right, let's tear into this thing. It's always nice when I get to a point where I think I know the problem, because it's just, you know, it means that I'm on the way to fixing the thing. Go ahead and pop this hose out of my way. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Of course, anytime you buy something that you don't get to hear run, you just have to take someone else's word on it. So I wasn't real sure how this was going to go. You know, sometimes it's like a gamble. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Take this bowl off of here. You're going to spill some gas, so, you know, make sure you get one of your wife's favorite pans for, you know, the Thanksgiving pans. Wherever she keeps those, that's where you want to look. They make excellent carburetor rebuild pans, and the nice thing about them is that, you know, if you're real slick about it, and if you're like me, my wife never watches my videos, so she'll never know this. But anyways, you can clean this thing up when you're done, and she'll never even know. Okay, so here's what the inside of the bowl looks like, and this is, of course, after I've already cleaned it out. I cleaned it with the wire brush. It's looking a lot better. But what I didn't do, my mistake was I didn't take these out. I should have taken these out and just made sure that there's flow going through them. And also, I didn't remove these screws here, and I'm going to do that. Clean everything out, kind of inspecting the, yep, needle's still moving like it's supposed to. Okay. And the bowl's clean enough. And I will continue, once this thing is running and stuff like that, I'll run some more Berryman's B12 through the tank. And that will help further clean this thing as it's running. And I actually was looking, I mean, I was like, I just about pulled the trigger on one. I got on eBay and looked at carburetors for these things. Okay, a little spring came out of there. I got on eBay and was looking at carburetors, and you can get a Chinese carburetor for this thing for like $20. And I was really tempted, and I started reading about them. People were like, nah, it's not a very good value, because you know, they use a lot of weird sized, the ports and different things are just weird sized, and the threads and things, they're not universal. Now, somebody I was reading somewhere said that you can take a lot of the parts out of the old ones and put them in, but these the jets and stuff, is what I'm trying to say, they were different. They were some weird size, and it didn't work quite right. Now I could actually take this off, and the way you get that off is you take these two screws out here of the butterfly, and then you can pull this choke thing out. But I'm not having any problems with the choke. It's working just fine. Everything looks pretty clean inside of there. And the same here, everything's looking good. Go ahead and remove this. This is your idle screw, and basically the way that works is it hits in a certain part of that slide there as it's coming down, and it won't let it go all the way back down. And the farther you return this, farther the screw is pulled out, the farther the thing can go down in the hole there, which makes your idle lower. So okay, I'm going to take a Q-tip and whatever I can get down in there, and there's a little tiny hole in there. I doubt you're going to be able to see it, but I'm going to take a piece of wire, clean that out. This one's not so important because all it does is stop the slide. Okay, and I doubt very seriously I'm going to have that size jet, that for the jet. I'm just going to try to take this out. Get right in the middle of it because you don't want to break off one of the ears on this thing. Okay, good deal. I'm just going to do these one at a time so that I don't think they can actually be mixed up, but I just want to make sure that I don't mix them up. And what you do is once you have it off like this, you basically, I'm not going to be able to show you this, but you hold it up to a light and look through the little hole there. See if you can see light through it. See if you can see any crud in there. I can actually see light through the thing. I'm going to check it here. Okay. That looks fine. It's clear. Isn't that how it always goes? We get interrupted by a phone call as soon as we get into the meat of the matter here. And I tried to take a piece of welding wire and run through this thing. I couldn't get it to go through. So instead what I did was I just took a little carb cleaner, squirted it down in the hole, and then took my air compressor and blew through it. And I can see through the thing. So I know it's not this one that's the problem. I can actually see through it. And I just don't have anything small enough to get through there. I don't have any wire that's a thin enough gauge to get through that. Anyways, we're going to call that good. I can see through it. I don't think that's the problem. And I'm also looking through here. I don't see any issue in there. I might have a little brush I can fit through here. If I do, I'll do it. It probably won't go all the way down in there. Let's try it. There we go. Yeah, a little set of these brushes is pretty handy. Clean the threads out there. I wish it was a little smaller. I could get it all the way through that thing, but not quite. Okay, I'm going to blow through this with compressed air. Sounds good. I think I got good airflow there. Looks clean in there. This looks good. Okay. Putting this one back in. And these are, you don't have to really tighten them up super tight, just snug, good and snug where it won't come loose. I'm going to unscrew this other one. I was watching another video. I can't remember the guy's name, but he had a whole bunch of really good videos on the 110 ATC. Okay, and he was saying that this is the one that tends to get clogged up on you. And I cannot see through it. I think this is my problem right here. And I can see what he was talking about. There's a couple little small holes in the side there. Now I can see through those. Oh, she's clogged. Yeah, this is our problem right here. I'm pretty sure this is what we got going on. I just need to find something small enough to run through the thing, to clean it. It's got to be strong enough. I'm thinking of any other wire that I have around. Meanwhile, I'm going to get a little B12 down in there. I'm going to have to look around and see if I can find something small enough to fit through that thing. To see if I can go find a really small E-string off a guitar or something. See if I can find a light gauge or something that'll fit through there. So, okay guys, what I ended up doing was I took a, here's my piece. I took some of that carburetor cleaner and threw it down in there. And I still couldn't find anything small enough. I took a bread tie and stripped the plastic off of it. And that wire was just fine enough to, if I push it in there just right, it'll actually kind of go through there. It doesn't go all the way through, but I can feel that I'm cleaning out the area there that I need to worry about, and I can see through it now. So I've made an improvement. I've blown through it with air a couple of times and put more B12 in there. But yeah, if you kind of just twist the thing as you're going, you don't want to break the bread tie off in there. And I'm going to try to push it through these little holes here. Just clean those out. Giving it another look into the light. There's just a microscopic little hole in there. I mean, it's tiny. Still see daylight through it, so we're good. I'm going to reinstall this. Okay, that looks good. Just going to take my finger and kind of clean the tip of this thing off. Just going to take the wire, do the same thing, make sure there's no blockages down in this little hole. This is one of those times you got to stick your tongue out just right to get that in there. Alrighty, I think we're ready to reassemble. Should go pretty quick. This is your fuel, air fuel mixture, your idle air fuel. So it only really affects your air fuel mixture at idle. And I was reading about this. They say the factory setting is 1.5 turns out. So I'm going to run it all the way in, not hard. You just want to just touch it. Just run it in lightly till it touches right there. So now I'm going to go half turn, 1 full turn, 1.5. That's supposed to be the factory setting on this thing. We're going to try that, start there. Also, you can adjust where the needle is on the slide. I'm not going to do that because I've got the thing running, and the story I got was that it was running fine before, so kind of going with that in my mind. And the guy seemed honest and everything, so okay. Lastly, we're going to put on this bowl here, and again I'm going to put a little more this white lithium grease. Maybe might buy us a little more time on this O-ring. And I checked this yesterday. This is where your fuel flows through from the bowl. I checked it out and it was flowing just fine. And luckily this thing will only go on there one way. Okay. You can see that kind of stands out proud, that little ring. We're going to stick that in the corresponding slot there. Kind of press it on there. Reinstall our screws. And next up, we'll put it back on the bike in the reverse order that we took it off. I'm not going to show that. And the next time when we come back, we'll be starting this thing up, and hopefully it'll stay running without the choke on. And we're ready to reinstall. We got the carburetor reinstalled, gas tank reinstalled, fuel lines hooked back up. We're ready to give this thing a couple of pulls and see if I can get some fuel down in that carburetor, see if I can get it to fire up. Okay, seems to be running a little better like that. I'm going to try to take it off the choke. I'm just trying to let it warm up just a little bit first. I'm going to try to take it off the choke, and what I'm doing down there with the screwdriver is I'm adjusting the idle up and down to keep it running.
Choke's open.
Okay, I'm going to let it warm up like that for, probably about 5 minutes or so, just idling like that before I try to mess with any of the mixture screws or anything. But it's sounding a lot better. It's running on no choke, and I'm able to give it a little gas, although it did sputter a little bit whenever I gave it gas. It could just be still a little bit cold, so we're going to let it go ahead and come up to operating temperature, and then we're going to play with the carburetor adjustments a little bit and see if we can get it to run perfect. It seems okay, but once in a while you'll hear it's kind of sputtering, and I don't know if I've still got issues with it or if it's just still cold. I don't know yet. I'm actually fixing to put the seat back on it and try to ride it around with no choke on to see if that actually works and see how it rides like that. All right, guys, as you can see, it runs and rides with no choke on, although you heard it bogging down a little bit, I'm sure. The thing, when I hammer on the gas full throttle, it would bog down. So I've still got something to work out here. Maybe it's a float bowl issue, or I still think that needle valve inside of there needs to be replaced, the float needle, or the float valve, whatever it's called, just because it was seized in there like that. But anyways, guys, this is going to conclude this video. In the future, I probably will go ahead and order up a carburetor kit for it and just go ahead and rebuild the whole thing properly. I doubt I'll show that. It'll be the similar process, except for I'll be changing out some gaskets and O-rings and stuff like that. Otherwise, basically what I did on the bench in there, the same sort of deal. But yeah, I had a blast just riding it around and just playing with it in low gear and low range there. Seems to shift through all the gears. I went down the road, got it up into 4th gear. And it's sort of a similar deal. As long as you keep the RPMs high, it seems to do okay. But if you get bogged down, like say you're in 3rd and you slow down too much and then you go back to hit the gas again, it wants to just go blah and kind of pop and stuff like that and backfire. So I've got something going on, either not enough fuel still or something. That's kind of what I think's going on. I've still got a blockage somewhere, or that float bowl is not allowing enough fluid to come through there, enough gasoline to come through there to keep the thing going. So anyways, guys, I appreciate you watching the video and tuning in. If you have a 3-wheeler like this, or a 4-wheeler even, pretty much any small engine works on these same principles. So check it out, check for spark, check for fuel, check for compression, that sort of thing. And if you got all those things and the exhaust is flowing, you should have a running engine. So all right, good luck to you on your projects, and we'll see you next time.